Tonight on CBC Vancouver News.
So justice to me is that the law is exercised to its highest degree.
An anxious wait for family and friends of a murdered Burnaby woman as her killer learns his fate. Also,
because I want answers for my family and for my sister.
questions about the mysterious circumstances that led to a Richmond Mounties apparent suicide. And
you're done.
Our Shot, a CBC town hall tonight on vaccinating British Columbia.
This is CBC Vancouver News.
Good evening, and we begin tonight with breaking news. BC health officials have just announced they are moving up the mass vaccination timeline. Our Tanya Fletcher is here live now, and Tanya, encouraging news for certain, but what's it going to mean for who gets vaccinated and when?
Yeah, so BC is bumping up the next age cohort. So vaccinations for seniors 85 and up can now book their vaccination appointments starting at noon tomorrow. It was supposed to be next Monday. That was the previous plan. But Health Minister Adrian Dix just announced this in a scrum with reporters within the hour. He says they were able to expedite that next age group because appointments for the 90-plus crowd have actually gone quicker than expected, despite Monday's blundering start. So 90-plus seniors can still call, although the province says most of them have already booked. Nearly 37,000 appointments have been confirmed in that first age group, and roughly 50,000 were eligible starting this week already.
All right, so just before this good news was announced, Tanya, there was the government continuing to face criticism from that disastrous debut of the phone registration from Monday. Yeah,
that's right. And calls have been growing since then for the government to reveal its contract with TELUS. And the voices leading that charge are from the official opposition. So the BC Liberals wasted no time capitalizing politically on the debacle during question period. Over and over again, interim leader Shirley Bond questioned Premier John Horgan about that TELUS contract. And over again, his government refused to disclose details, instead offering up comparisons to the Great One.
When was the contract signed, and will he release it today?
I acknowledged, as the Minister of Health did, as did the CEO of TELUS, on Monday in Vancouver Coastal Health, we had a bad day. People have bad days all the time, Honourable Speaker. I'm fairly confident that Wayne Gretzky didn't score in every game he played in, but he kept getting on the ice and doing the best he could. That's exactly what we did.
So Health Minister Adrian Dix fielded several similar questions, really only saying, though, that Vancouver Coastal Health has drastically improved its performance. Yesterday, you remember, he didn't mince words, slamming TELUS. Well, today was the opposite. He actually praised the company for rapidly rectifying the situation. By 1 o'clock this afternoon, he said that health authority alone had already taken 2,500 phone bookings. That's compared to, of course, the total of 369 on day one.
Okay, the Gretzky comparison, a little different, but okay, so Vancouver Coastal Health seems to have its call center problems fixed, but are we any closer to finding out why there's still only one of our health regions in the province that's able to accommodate online vaccination bookings?
No, we put that question to Dr. Henry, Minister Dix, and the Premier, and none of them have really provided a very fulsome or at least satisfying explanation as to why Fraser Health is the only region capable of taking online registrations. Take a listen.
Obviously, we wanted it to be ready for weeks ago, but it does take time to get those things together. And Fraser Health was the only health authority that had that type of an online booking system that was robust enough at this point.
We wanted to make sure we had a whole provincial system in place and ready to go at one time when the large immunizations came.
The terms of each health authority putting in place their infrastructure is entirely up to them, and we oversee that.
So all day I've been trying to get information about Fraser Health's online portal, how they were able to pivot their existing system that they launched in the summer to book COVID tests, and why no other health authority was able to piggyback off their infrastructure and adapt their own online systems. Now, our requests to Fraser Health have been redirected to the Health Ministry, and we have yet to hear back from anyone who can answer our questions or provide details on this.
All right, but at the end of the day, the vaccination timeline, at least the booking part of it, is moving up.
That's right. Good news.
Thank you, Tanya. Tanya Fletcher reporting live tonight. And to the latest numbers now, BC's reporting 1 new COVID-19 death tonight. Our total now at almost 1,400. There are 531 new cases, though, including 2 EpiLink cases. There are now almost 4,900 active cases of COVID-19 in our province. 244 people are in hospital. 66 are in intensive care. Well, a woman on the North Shore has a very large bill on her hands tonight after allegedly flouting quarantine rules twice. Our Dan Burritt joins us now live with more on that. So, Dan, what happened?
Quite a trip this person took, police in West Vancouver say, Mike. The Force says the Public Health Agency of Canada told them a 59-year-old woman entered Canada from the U.S. at the Pacific Highway border crossing last Thursday. Police say Public Health alleges she did not provide an adequate negative COVID test, then visited someone at Lionsgate Hospital shortly after. The Force says officers went to her quarantine address the next day and were greeted by someone else who said the woman was out. Cops then ran into the woman as she returned from a walk. Police say she claimed she was exempt from quarantine requirements but couldn't prove it. That's when they ticketed her for alleged public health violations and breaking quarantine. That fine, almost $7,000. She was then told to quarantine at a home in West Van.
Crossing a land border does mean and require that person to quarantine for 14 days if they don't meet sort of the exemption criteria. And we need to take that seriously.
Public Health Agency of Canada says it's looking into what happened, but won't say much more than that. The Canada Border Services Agency won't say whether the woman crossed into Canada in a vehicle or walked over. And we've asked Vancouver Coastal Health how this person was allegedly able to visit someone at Lionsgate Hospital. We're still waiting to hear back. Mike.
Anxious to hear what they actually say. All right, Dan, thanks very much. Dan Burritt reporting live tonight. And CBC British Columbia is taking your questions about the vaccine and our province's rollout plan straight to provincial officials tonight. In just under an hour from now, we're hosting a virtual town hall. Dr. Bonnie Henry, Health Minister Adrian Dix, and other experts and officials are going to be on hand to answer your questions live. Our Shot will be here on CBC Television, CBC Gem online, and on CBC Radio. You can send your questions to bcasks@cbc.ca. And tonight's town hall is co-hosted by CBC Radio Stephen Quinn and my colleague here on TV, Anita Bath. And Anita joins us now live. So what can we expect tonight, Anita?
Answers, hopefully, Mike. We really want to narrow in on BC's vaccination plan. We're cutting out all the global stuff, all the Canadian stuff, and focusing in on what is happening right here in British Columbia and what's going to happen in the coming months. We've got Dr. Bonnie Henry, Adrian Dix, as you mentioned, and other health officials who will take your questions. So you can expect accountability tonight and a wide range of questions about the vaccine plan.
Yeah, because there still seems to be, a lot of questions, changing information, and misinformation out there.
Exactly. So tonight we want to make sure we clear everything up and demystify the vaccine process. Right now, the province says all British Columbians who are eligible can get the shot by the beginning of July. But you just heard from Tanya that some of that might change. So tonight we're going to find out how that will be possible and whether, with today's news about the next group moving up in the queue, whether that means everyone will be moved up. We'll also look to get answers on kids getting vaccinated and what happens in schools in the fall. What about people with disabilities? Will they be prioritized? We're already getting a lot of questions filtering in. The town hall is right after the show from 7 p.m. to 8 p.m. You can watch it right here. Send us your questions at bcasks@cbc.ca or, hey, send them directly to me on Twitter.
All right, Anita, thanks. We'll see you and Stephen Quinn in, just over 50 minutes from now. Thanks. The sentencing hearing is underway for the man who murdered Nicole Porcello. The Burnaby mom was stabbed by her ex-boyfriend before he crashed the car they were in on the Barnett Highway. Tina Lovegreen spoke with Porcello's family in their first public interview since the tragedy.
She was just so full of life. I feel really lucky that I had such a beautiful friend in my life.
From high school through college and beyond, Ashley Ingleson and Nicole Porcello were inseparable.
She was caring and thoughtful and considerate. And as a friend, I felt really lucky because she just saw me for who I was. You know, she loved me for who I was. And she supported me. She was that cheerleader for you.
In November 2018, the 34-year-old was killed by her ex-boyfriend. Jan Popel pleaded guilty to her murder. Her family says they were in an on and off relationship, but that she had broken it off months prior to her death. He stabbed her and then crashed his car into a light pole on Barnett Highway, which ultimately killed her.
The impact goes far beyond just me or our families. You know, it really does hit communities, and for me personally, I feel heartbroken.
Porcello left behind a 12-year-old son and a countless number of students whose lives she touched through her work as an educational assistant at Templeton Secondary School.
She was just like a shining light in my family, and that light went out too soon.
Nicole's brother, Carmine, didn't want his face shown. He's tired of being recognized for how his sister died.
I just want her to be remembered by how she lived, not how she died, because I live with how she died every day, and it affects me in ways. I'm not the same person. My parents aren't the same. They're alive, but they're not living. They're basically hollow shells.
A conviction for second-degree murder carries an automatic life sentence. The sentencing hearing will deal with parole eligibility, which could be anywhere from 10 to 25 years.
So justice to me is that the law is exercised to its highest degree. Nothing can bring her back, but at least that would be something.
Tina Lovegreen, CBC News, Burnaby.
The family of an off-duty RCMP officer found dead 2 weeks ago is calling for a coroner's investigation tonight. As Zara Premji explains, investigators suspect the officer took her own life, but the family still has many unanswered questions.
Hey, Jazz.
This was 25-year-old Richmond RCMP Constable Jasmine Tiara months before she died.
Jazzy was larger than life, standing at 5'11", beautiful supermodel that she was. She still chose a life of service because as kids, my mother raised us on those principles of seva.
Now her family is desperately pleading with the several agencies investigating her death to provide clearer answers.
We'd like the coroner to open up an investigation into the manner of my sister's death, which would essentially require an autopsy as one has not yet been performed.
On February 21st, the off-duty officer left her New Westminster home and her family and never returned.
You don't ever expect to ever have to bury your younger sibling. It's like she's from my rib. I know my sister, so nothing added up, and that was quite overwhelming.
According to the family's lawyer, on that evening 2.5 weeks ago, she told her mother she was heading out to get gas and food, taking her gun and badge with her. Soon after, her car was found parked at a hotel in Richmond. Her body was later found near the hotel. The Independent Investigations Office says the 25-year-old had suffered what appeared to be self-inflicted injuries. But the family says there were no signs she was in distress.
Jazzy had purpose, and that's why this is also confusing. She had big plans. We are still to this day receiving orders from her Amazon account to our home.
The family tells CBC News they discovered medical documents in her room this same day right after she died, showing she was 14.5 weeks pregnant. And they believe she was in a relationship with the senior RCMP officer.
The relationship was ongoing in excess of a year.
The coroner's office wouldn't answer whether it is doing a full autopsy of Constable Tiara, referencing the ongoing investigation into her death. The RCMP says it has launched an internal review being handled by members outside of the Richmond RCMP, and it's fully participating and committed to determining the circumstances in the tragic death.
This was not our Jazzy, and we just need to understand.
Zara Premji, CBC News, Vancouver.
Pipeline protesters marched in Burnaby today. The demonstrators opposed the Trans Mountain Pipeline expansion project. They briefly blocked traffic in the area before marching towards the construction site. The protest also marks the 3rd anniversary of the so-called Watch House. It's a structure used to monitor work being carried out. Well, the West Coast has long been known for its wild spot prawns, but harvesters say the new DFO rules have put the industry in jeopardy. A recent decision means it could soon be illegal for fishermen to freeze their catch. As John Hernandez reports, the rules could unfairly target remote communities.
It's a $45 million industry that harvesters say could soon be lost at sea. Spot prawn season is still a few months away in BC, but a new regulatory hurdle has commercial fishers concerned and confused.
We don't know if we can proceed with our businesses. It's really devastating.
It comes down to what happens on fishing boats. Historically, spot prawn harvesters have been legally allowed to freeze their catch in tubs. It keeps the catch fresh, which can then be sold to restaurants and vendors across the country. But that could change thanks to a recent interpretation of inspection rules.
Just recently, we just got notification on Wednesday that the interpretation of that regulation has changed so that now spot prawn tails frozen at sea are no longer considered readily available for inspection, and they are now officially illegal.
It's a heavy blow to harvesters who were already hit hard by the pandemic. The frozen prawn market was one of the few industry bright spots during last year's season.
The prawn industry, there's a split between live sellers and frozen sellers. So for frozen sellers like myself, we're losing our most valuable part of our catch last year.
Live sales will still be allowed, which is still profitable in big markets like Metro Vancouver. But opponents of the new rules say harvesters outside the Lower Mainland will be adversely impacted.
Who this disproportionately affects is those who live in rural and Indigenous communities where they don't have those markets.
Harvesters are now calling for consultations with Fisheries and Oceans Canada ahead of the upcoming season. In a statement, the DFO said it's taking those concerns seriously and it will work with harvesters in the months ahead. Still, it says its number one priority is to keep these stocks healthy and productive for years to come. John Hernandez, CBC News, Vancouver.
YVR has unveiled a strategic plan to help get the ailing air travel industry ready for the post-pandemic world. The airport is investing in new technology to try to stay ahead of any COVID-19 developments. CEO Tamara Vrooman says the reduced air and passenger traffic gives them an opportunity to strengthen the airport's infrastructure. Another goal to work towards eliminating carbon emissions in 20 years. Our Johanna Wagstaff on assignment all this week, but Nick Czernkovich is here with the forecast tonight. You did well today, Nick. That was a stunner for the most part here on the South Coast, but can you keep it going?
I'm glad I could provide. Actually, yeah, I've got good news in long-range forecast. As it turns out, today was probably the coolest day of the next few, and we've got even more in the way of sunshine headed our way. Let me show you what's going on here. So a little bit in the way of cloud cover. The system that I'd been talking about throughout the week, that's back here. But high pressure in place is actually going to hold this at bay until Sunday, which means we're looking at least one nice, sunny, warm day on the weekend. And in fact, even Sunday might stay dry for the most part. With tonight, we're still looking at just some dissipating spotty showers. Generally, though, it's dry now, and it's going to stay dry as we head into the forecast period for the next 24. And in fact, actually, for the next few days. There's a look at the forecast heading into tomorrow morning. Lots in the way of sunshine. Actually, just straight sunshine here. I haven't got a cloud in sight there. Same story as we head through Thursday afternoon. Cloud cover starts to push down, but into Friday, we'll start to see that cloud cover moving in, and then it's actually going to pull back as high pressure makes its way in further in for Friday and Saturday. Right now, we're sitting at 7 degrees in Vancouver, 8 earlier today, and that's just because of the breeze coming off of the water. Tomorrow up to 10 degrees, lots in the way of sunshine, and it gets even warmer than that heading into the long-range forecast. Full details on that coming up in a bit.
Look forward to that. Talk again in a bit. Thanks, Nick.
You bet.
And a reminder, you can also watch our newscasts live on CBC Gem. CBC Vancouver is also on Facebook, YouTube, and Instagram. What caused two boats to crash in the night, and who's to blame? More details in a crash that involved entrepreneur Kevin O'Leary coming up.
You have questions about the vaccine, and we want to hear from you. Join us for a very special CBC British Columbia Town Hall, Our Shot, Vaccinating BC, on March 10th at 7 p.m.
And at 6:19, thanks for staying with us during our commercial-free live stream tonight. Well, a Nova Scotia woman has spent her life with horses. She's trained them, boarded them, and rode them. but her mission now, rescuing them. Colleen Jones has the story from her farm northeast of Halifax.
I'm just an ordinary person doing what needs to be done. And I happen to love horses, so.
It's chore time for Raven Jackson. Mind you, it's always chore time here at our farm called Earth Ark.
Yes. This is a list of things people can do when they don't think they have anything to do.
Raven's recovering from a broken tibia.
Now that one there, looking at you, that's Kit.
As she wheels water through the muck to the horses in the paddock, the broken tibia only slows her down a little bit. She clearly won't let it stop her.
Tell me, do you spend all your old age pension on the horses?
Pretty well. Yeah. Well, I'm a fortunate person simply because I don't have to pay for my property.
It's paid for.
I don't have a mortgage or anything like that. So if I had to pay rent or mortgage, I'd be done. But I use whatever I have to use because they have to come first. Too old to have a license, I guess. Oh, I hate this time of year.
In this year of COVID, it's been hard for Raven. Fundraising plans have been scrapped. She uses her old age pension plus donations to hold things together. And when things get tough,
I mean, I just look up and go, if you want me to keep doing this, you got to find a way. Either you got to give me money or you got to give me hay. And hay rhymes. I think I've always been saving horses.
if she is an angel to the horses, she just got blessed with a $1,000 donation from singer Jan Arden and the work she's been doing with the Canadian Horse Defence Coalition. That group is raising the alarm bells over Canada's horse meat export trade.
Total relief, because the worry of my life is to have to call the vet. So knowing that if anything happens, I just have to pick up the phone and say, Dr. Ed, I need you.
At 77 years of age, she has come to the decision to stop bringing new rescues to the farm. Now, that doesn't mean she's stopping her work, but the 18 horses she and the volunteers tend to is enough. She'll keep putting the horses' needs ahead of her own.
Well, I was brought up believing that you get up in the morning, you grab yourself a glass of milk and an oat cake, and you go to the barn because the horse can't get a peanut butter sandwich whenever he wants.
Colleen Jones, CBC News, Dalhousie Mountain.
And just to be clear, it's the woman's farm, not reporter Colleen Jones, just to make you clear on that. Okay, back in just a couple of seconds. Lots more news. Until then, enjoy the shot of the Port of Vancouver tonight.
Hi, I'm Amy Bell, and here's what's in your CBC Vancouver inbox.
Gloria Makarenko returns as host of West Coast Leaf's annual fundraiser, the virtual Equality Breakfast for Dinner. Get your tickets today at westcoastleaf.org. And do you have questions about the vaccine? Tune into CBC TV and radio on March 10th at 7 p.m. for our town hall, Our Shot, Vaccinating BC. Get all the details at cbc.ca/ourshot.
CBC News has uncovered a new development surrounding the deadly boat collision involving reality TV personality and businessman Kevin O'Leary and his wife. Court documents show the driver of the other boat, an American, has been convicted of a relatively minor infraction under the Canada Shipping Act. Katie Nicholson tells us how it could impact other related court cases.
What happened 2 years ago on these waters now slowly coming into focus. 2 boats collided under a night sky. 2 people were killed. Behind the wheel of one boat, the wife of entrepreneur and reality TV star Kevin O'Leary, Linda O'Leary, later charged with careless operation of a vessel under the Shipping Act. Behind the wheel of the second boat, Richard Roux, charged with failure to exhibit a stern navigation light. Originally, Roux was going to take the matter to trial. Provincial offense documents reveal Roux decided against that in September and quietly paid the ticket, a total of $180.
Rather than come back to Canada
to have a lengthy trial and revisit some of the trauma that everybody experienced over this. He chose not to contest the matter, which does not mean that he pleaded guilty.
When he paid the fine, Roos submitted this letter saying he understood it meant he wasn't disputing the charge, but also that he would not be entering a guilty plea.
I think that is an attempt by this gentleman to, have his cake and eat it too.
Even though there was no admission of guilt, this defense lawyer says it is still a conviction, and it will impact the other cases tied to the crash.
And so by paying the ticket, that will be seen at both the civil and the careless driving or careless boating trial as an admission.
Can you have it both ways? If you're a purist, a legal purist, you can't have it both ways.
This defense lawyer says that conviction will help O'Leary's case.
Linda O'Leary's lawyer would say, look at sir, that meant that your lights weren't on. You've admitted that your lights weren't on. And how did you expect Linda O'Leary to see your boat if your lights weren't on? You're a contributing factor to this.
O'Leary's lawyer, Brian Greenspan, says he won't be commenting on specific evidence before the trial. That is slated to start in June. Katie Nicholson, CBC News, Toronto.
The federal government has fallen short on fulfilling a campaign promise to lift all long-term drinking water advisories by this month. 50 still remain. But as Olivia Stefanovich reports, Ottawa says substantial progress has been made.
On the heels of a scathing Auditor General's report,
I am very concerned and honestly disheartened.
Blasting the federal government for its failure to provide clean drinking water on reserves.
The funding formula had not been updated in 30 years. You should look at things a little more often than 30 years.
A recommitment today from the Indigenous Services Minister.
We're relentless in getting it done.
Mark Miller is not promising a new timeline or funding, but he says his department wants to be more transparent. Since the Liberal government took office in 2015, 101 long-term drinking water advisories have been lifted. 58 remain in 38 communities. Indigenous Services Canada launched a new website to track its progress to make good on its promise.
You may say that a website alone doesn't do that, but it does start to build the confidence.
The best they're going to give us is a website. They're conning Canadians.
But the opposition says the move doesn't nearly go far enough.
Unless they deal with the underlying structural problems that have plagued communities year in, year out, with chronic underfunding, with bad planning from the government, they are not going to meet that target.
Some communities are battling COVID-19 outbreaks without clean tap water.
We deserve better as Canadian citizens.
This chief says he expects to lift his community's long-term drinking water advisory soon, but he fears it won't last, as long as the government's approach remains the same.
We're talking about turning on a tap and being able to give your child water from the tap. Is that so much to ask for?
The government committed more than $3.5 billion to get clean water flowing in First Nations. It's unclear when the remaining advisories will be lifted. The hope is the majority of the work can get done this upcoming construction season. Olivia Stefanovich, CBC News, Ottawa.
The armed Manitoba man who stormed the gates of Rideau Hall last summer has been sentenced to 6 years in prison minus a year for time served. Corey Hurren pleaded guilty last month to 7 weapons charges and 1 count of mischief for causing $100,000 worth of damage to the Rideau Hall gate. The 46-year-old military reservist rammed the front entrance with his truck, then roamed the grounds back on July 2nd. He did make it as far as a greenhouse before Mounties arrested him. Police in Lethbridge, Alberta are responding to increasing scrutiny tonight. This as more allegations of misconduct by officers is emerging. As Megan Grant tells us, the province is promising to take action if things don't improve.
Lethbridge Police Chief Shaheen Madizadeh has confirmed that following a meeting with Alberta Justice Minister Casey Madhu, LPS has been told to shape up or else the government will step in.
Yes, those comments were made, but again, Justice Minister was also very mindful of the fact that we have new players in the game right now. A lot of these incidents are not something that Lethbridge Police Service is doing today.
Earlier this week, CBC News published a story about 6 Lethbridge police employees' potentially unauthorized searches of NDP MLA Shannon Phillips' personal information on police databases. This after an external investigation found Phillips was photographed in 2017 by 2 on-duty officers who also happened to be off-road enthusiasts. The then Environment Minister had proposed the phase-out of off-highway vehicle use in parts of the province. Those officers were disciplined, and after the most recent allegations against new Lethbridge officers, UCP Justice Minister Casey Madhu said he was outraged. Yesterday, he met with Police Chief Shaheen Medizadeh to address the matter.
So obviously, under the Police Act, if I am satisfied that circumstances have warranted my intervention, I could, pursuant to Section 17, direct the Alberta Law Enforcement Review Board to conduct an inquiry on the police service.
Medizadeh says he told the minister he's taking the allegations seriously and is committed to taking the proper steps to be transparent and to hold people accountable. The chief said one of the officers is currently suspended, but for unrelated reasons, and he wouldn't elaborate. He also said he didn't believe it was fair to suspend the other officers until the investigation is complete. Medizadeh also confirmed more allegations of misconduct are expected in the coming weeks, but he also issued a plea to people in Lethbridge to be patient, wait for the facts, and to be respectful of the process. Megan Grant, CBC News, Lethbridge.
Military leaders are working to tighten their grip on power in Myanmar tonight. Sources say arrests and detentions are on the rise as soldiers and police crack down on demonstrators. As Renee Filipponi reports, there's no sign the demonstrators are prepared to stop.
This scene is playing out daily now in cities across Myanmar. Protesters on the run from police and clouds of tear gas. We are treating the burn injuries from the stun grenade, says this first aid attendant. Set up in the middle of it all, this team of medics treat nearly 60 people a day, putting their own safety on the line to do it. Others like them have been beaten by police. We inform the authorities what we are doing and let the neighbors know we are here, says Ang Miao Yu. He says they are remaining neutral and will treat both protesters and police. The military is tightening its grip on power. Last night, an opposition politician was dragged from his home by police. Journalists tell us they fear the same.
A lot of journalists I know have not been sleeping in their homes.
Thin Lai Win founded news site Myanmar Now, but currently lives abroad. She says her former office was raided by police this week, and 5 media outlets were stripped of their credentials.
I think we can surmise that this is an attempt to try and stop the flow of information getting out of Myanmar onto the world stage so that people will know what is going on in Myanmar.
And despite international calls to end the coup, military leaders continue to push for a violent crackdown. But it appears dissent is growing among the rank and file. About 100 people have fled to this border town in India to seek refuge, mostly police officers and their families. The duty of the police is to protect the people, says this man. He was ordered to open fire on protesters and refused. He fled, leaving behind his wife and 2 children and scenes like these. In a town in northern Myanmar, a nun fell to her knees begging police to stop the violence after a man was shot dead in front of her. I don't want to see any trouble, says Sister Rose Nutong, who told them to shoot her and not the children. Renee Filipponi, CBC News, London.
Vaccinations for every adult in Prince Rupert, vaccine hesitancy in the north. Coming up, we'll ask the acting head of Northern Health about the delicate situation there.
An earthquake off Vancouver Island was felt in Victoria and Metro Vancouver last night. The mild 3.9 magnitude quake was centered in the Haro Strait. There are no reports of damage or injuries. In the end, a tsunami warning was not necessary. People living along BC's coast wouldn't have to look very far to see the sheer power of a tsunami. Debris from Japan began washing ashore in Canada over the summer, turning beaches into landfills. And as Chris Brown reports, more could be on the way.
No matter how often you look at it, it boggles the mind that this motorcycle, washed out to sea by giant tsunami waves in Japan, floated 8,000 kilometers to Haida.
It's incredible when you think of a motorcycle making its way all across the ocean.
BC's Environment Minister has been tracking the arrival of other tsunami debris from Japan, and Terry Lake believes the situation is shaping up better than expected.
What we found is that a lot of the high flotation material is already here.
This jug here looks like it still has oil in it.
In other words, all the junk our CBC crew found on East Beach in Haida in June could be the worst of it. Further south, after that Japanese dock floated ashore in Oregon, it's been fairly quiet too, all of which begs the question, did most of the 1.5 million tons of heavier debris sink to the bottom, or is it just taking its time to get here?
It's about 400 miles offshore, according to our latest simulations. Moves about 7 miles a day, so viewers can do the math. It's another month or so before it gets here big time, but it's starting to creep in now.
Even before the tsunami, there was lots of garbage in the ocean, and scientists have been examining what it means for ocean life. And they say it's pretty bad and getting worse. This dead albatross from Hawaii had a belly full of plastic. As for the debris, oceanographers are relying on people in coastal communities to tell them what they find, and there's now even a new mobile app to instantly let you do that. The expectation is beachcombers on the West Coast will be busy again come the spring with the next wave of tsunami debris. Chris Brown, CBC News, Vancouver.
You have questions about the vaccine, and we want to hear from you. Join us for a very special CBC British Columbia Town Hall, Our Shot, Vaccinating BC, on March 10th at 7 p.m.
Our top story tonight on CBC Vancouver News.
We will be opening appointments starting at noon tomorrow for those aged 85 to 89. This is earlier than expected, but will allow people 85 to 89, born in 1936 or before, to start booking appointments as of noon tomorrow.
As you heard, BC health officials have just announced they are moving up the mass vaccination timeline. And as the minister said, it starts tomorrow. Vaccination bookings for seniors 85 and up can book their vaccination appointments, as the minister said, at noon instead of Monday, as was previously planned. The health minister says they were able to expedite the next age group because appointments for the 90-plus group have actually gone quicker than expected. This despite Monday's blundering start. Health officials are also reporting 1 new COVID-19 death tonight and 531 new cases. 244 people are in hospital, 66 of those patients in intensive care. BC health officials are planning to vaccinate every adult residing in Prince Rupert by April 1st. That's just a few weeks away. With a population of 12,000, 1.6% of Prince Rupert residents have recently tested positive for COVID-19. That's considered dangerously high compared to other similar communities. At the same time, results of a new poll suggests residents in northern BC are more hesitant to get vaccinated. With us now is Dr. John Kim, the acting chief medical officer of BC's Northern Health Authority. Dr. Kim, thanks so much for joining us tonight. I want to ask you, first of all, the whole community approach on vaccinations is usually reserved for those communities with populations of fewer than 4,000. As we said, Prince Rupert is at 12,000. So why are the immunizations there being fast-tracked?
Thank you for asking. In those whole community kind of approach that you mentioned, is usually resolve the community, especially in the early part of BC vaccination for the remote communities. So we try to achieve the herd immunity and protect everybody there, because accessing the healthcare in those communities is challenging. Prince Rupert is a little bit different situation. One part is that because of the rapid transmission of COVID-19 in a relatively sizable community that's at the risk of overwhelming local healthcare capacity, we are targeting not just kind of morbidity and mortality, those people who can get very sick from the COVID-19. We are also targeting that those people who can actually spread COVID-19 in the community. So we are going with the whole community approach so that we can achieve that herd immunity in that community so everybody is protected.
So obviously you're hoping the expanded approach is going to reduce transmissions, outbreaks, clusters, those kinds of things.
Yeah.
Okay. So, and what's been the reaction to Prince Rupert getting this prioritized approach?
I think there has been, like, the Prince Rupert as a community, that people in the community knows that the community has been going through significant COVID-19 situations. So I'm sure there are mixed kind of reaction from the community, but we've been hearing kind of sense of relief that the vaccination is coming, in addition to other measures that community has been taking to control this situation.
Okay, well, let's talk about this recent poll that was done. It showed that the number of people who plan to refuse a vaccine is 2 times higher in northern BC, 20% of residents than other parts of our province. How do you plan to try to address that?
I think the key part is that there are people who are against the vaccination, and there are people who are hesitant about the vaccinations. So just continue to have that Northern Health as communication strategy with the community, both through our kind of social media website, as well as some of the kind of meetings and some of the kind of media release, that reassuring that the COVID vaccine is effective in saving life, as well as it's safe and went through the rigorous process that all approved the vaccine that's coming to the community. And we are just increasing this opportunity for engagements with the community to continue to build the trust that people need to have for the healthcare providers and health authority. And we are also working with our local healthcare providers for that, for people to feel more comfortable about the vaccination.
All right, Dr. Kim, we will leave it at that. We thank you very much for your time tonight. We appreciate it.
Thank you very much.
And CBC British Columbia is taking your questions about the vaccines and our province's rollout plan straight to provincial officials tonight. In just about 20 minutes, I have to check the clock on the wall, we're hosting a virtual town hall. Dr. Bonnie Henry, Health Minister Adrian Dix, and other experts and officials are going to be on hand live to answer your questions. Our Shot will be on CBC Television, CBC Gem, online, and on CBC Radio. Hosted by my colleague Anita Bath and CBC Early Edition Stephen Quinn. Send your questions to bcasks@cbc.ca. Well, the Canadian Football League is in discussions with the American XFL on a potential partnership. Just ahead, what it would take for the two teams and the leagues to team up. And at 6:43, a live look. There's Harbour Centre, Gross Mountain in the background there. Very decent day on the South Coast. As for the rest of the week and the weekend, Nick's going to let us know next.
You have questions about the vaccine, and we want to hear from you. Join us for a very special CBC British Columbia Town Hall, Our Shot, Vaccinating BC, on March 10th at 7 p.m.
My name is Paul Pike, and I'm the Director for Cultural and Community Programming for People of the Don Indigenous Friendship Center in Stephenville, Newfoundland. We are one of around 100 friendship centers that are nationally. They established friendship centers as a way for connecting Indigenous peoples, especially coming from rural communities, into urban centers. It was a way to, help Indigenous people navigate Canadian systems, everything from employment to training, whatever services that may need help with. It's my job to deliver as best possible, relevant cultural information, as well as help promote the culture, educate. And part of that means including people who are non-Indigenous to come in to learn about the land that they're living in.
What's called a roach pin, and it goes right through the braid.
I always tell people, whatever I'm sharing with you, go and talk to elders from other regions. And if they tell you something completely different, then I was wrong. But I try my best to reach out to those elders and try to get some feedback about what I'm sharing before I share it. We got the call, says we're going to have to be working from home. Everybody was in their home lockdown environment. And we were all just scrambling, like, what can you do within your four walls? And at that time, we had an artist, Marcus Gosson, was working with us. He was doing online programming, sharing about Mi'kmaq petroglyph art and things like that. So he was sharing those kinds of things, and not just how to do it, but the background to the designs and, some of the history behind the petroglyphs. Other than that, I was doing online beading groups, and then I started something called the Monday Morning Live, which is only like about 20 minutes to 30 minutes on Monday mornings. We just felt like our whole purpose was really at that point is to keep our community connected. I share a little bit of music and as much local, especially local Mi'kmaq cultural knowledge that I can dig up and share.
You can see this one's been beaded and stuff, and they would be worn on that.
We have a lot of community members that live away as well, and they've all expressed, how great it is to feel a part of something, to be able to connect with home, and so we see the value in it, obviously, and it's a way for us to say who we are on a broader, World Wide Web level. To be able to say that we're here and this is, our community, and we want to share it with you.
Soul Creator, thank you for this morning, this day. Thank
Two North American football leagues are looking at teaming up. Today, the Canadian Football League said it is in discussions with the American XFL on a potential partnership. CBC's Marjorie Dauhaus has reaction from the league and its fans.
The Canadian Football League may be looking at collaborating on the field with American teams once again. CFL Commissioner Randy Ambrosie confirmed today the league is in talks with the XFL about working together. In a statement, Ambrosie says, "We look forward to exploring how we might work with one of the most innovative sports brands in the world to grow the game, engage fans in new ways, and reach new audiences." The XFL is co-owned by former wrestler and actor Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson. Johnson spent 1 year with the Calgary Stampeders in the 90s. XFL President and CEO Jeffrey Pollock echoed the sentiment of talking with the CFL, saying, "We share a passion for football, an expansive sense of possibility, and a deep desire to create more opportunity for players and fans across North America and around the world." Winnipeg Blue Bomber President and CEO Wade Miller says talks between the two sides are early and fans shouldn't worry. Miller says there is potential for both leagues to build on what each of them offer.
It's great talking to people that have the same passion and engagement of football, and
are creative and innovative in both sports and entertainment, and that's what Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson, Danny Garcia, and then Redbird Capital are about. So look forward to those conversations.
Former Blue Bomber Abi Khan says he's a bit surprised, but optimistic and excited about what the two leagues can do together. He says it's no secret the CFL is facing its share of financial troubles, while the XFL is trying to rebrand itself.
Well, still had the bad taste of the XFL from the Generation 1, right? Which was WWE or WWF superstars everywhere, over the top ridiculousness. It wasn't real football, right? The XFL version 2.0 tried to get back to a little bit more of the traditional NFL style of football. But
Reaction to the news was swift and mixed.
I think it's a very bad idea to mix U.S. football and Canadian football. I mean, I know that a lot of the players are from down there, but I think we've created our own brand, and I think we should leave it.
If there's any risk of losing the CFL, that would be really sad for me. So I think if that were the case, and it means amalgamating with the American League, it would be a not too hard a pill to swallow.
Both the CFL and XFL emphatically stated nothing has been decided and all potential options will be explored. Anything agreed upon would kick in either in 2022 or beyond. The CFL is expected to return to the field this summer. Marjorie Dowhouse, CBC News, Winnipeg.
All right, time for a check of the forecast. From my perch here in Studio 55 earlier today, Nick, you could see the North Shore Mountains, baked in sunshine. It was quite lovely. Please tell us it's going to be hanging around.
Yeah, well, as they say, you ain't seen nothing yet, right? So we've actually got some really nice weather in the forecast all the way into the weekend. We've managed to push the showers toward the end of Sunday, so it looks like we've got some really good weather heading into Saturday and even parts of Sunday as well. Lots in the way of sunshine here expected for tomorrow. A few spotty showers continuing tonight. That clears out. By tomorrow, though, we're looking at just straight sunshine right across the board here for most of southern BC. Into Friday, that system I've been mentioning throughout the week, that starts to approach here, but it's actually held back. High pressure still stays in place, and you'll see the cloud cover actually begins to dissipate. Just a few clouds there heading into Friday and Saturday as well. And in fact, even Sunday, doesn't look like we're going to see much in the way of precipitation. Winds are going to be light, but here's the thing. With an easterly breeze here, it's going to keep temperatures down a little bit around the Vancouver area, especially closer to the shorelines. But once you move inland, you're looking at warmer temperatures, double digits in place there. Into Friday, the winds shift a little bit more southeasterly, and that's going to give us some more of a flow coming off of land, and I think we're going to see temperatures bumping up even in the Vancouver area. Now, one thing to note here, and I've pointed this out for the last couple of days, there's our system that approaches, kind of breaks down into Sunday evening, but then as this high pressure shifts out, we're going to see more of a zonal or a west to east flow, and into next week, it looks like we're in for a little bit more in the way of unsettled weather, so enjoy this weather while it lasts for the next few. Temperatures today hitting 8 degrees. Again, that because of that westerly breeze off of the water. Tomorrow, similar story, but as you head inland, we've got a little bit warmer temperatures, lots in the way of sunshine. That's why I've got Abbotsford and Hope up to 12 degrees. Vancouver just hanging in the double digits there at 10 degrees, but it does get warmer as the winds shift a little bit through the next few days. 11 degrees on Friday. That one's for you, Mike. 14 degrees on Saturday, increasing cloud cover on Sunday. And to kick off next week, still looking at double digits.
Fantastic. Great news. Daylight saving, of course, on the weekend as well. All right. Thanks, Nick.
You bet.
Well, a school in Canada's north says it's making progress when it comes to helping children who have trauma. Part of that work involves making use of a therapy dog to help build relationships. Philippe Morin went back to school to learn more.
At Takini Elementary, this Labradoodle is more than a mascot.
Hey, come on, Luna, let's go. Good girl, come on. Good girl.
She's my co-worker, my co-teacher.
Luna is a therapy dog. That means she's used in counseling, in lessons, and for emotional support.
Sometimes kids have a really hard time maybe connecting with an adult or other children, and Luna is the one that they connect with.
Lisa Evans is vice principal. She's also a registered psychologist and play therapist. For 4 years now, she's brought her dog into the school. A therapy dog can listen as children read without judgment. It can go on nature walks. It adds fun and warmth and physical contact to the school.
I like Luna. She's very kind, and it helps a lot of people when they're stressed out and kind of need to calm down.
One thing is for sure, this dog gets and gives a lot of affection. And that's the point. Luna may be a dog, but she's also a model of a healthy relationship. In a way, she teaches responsibility, empathy, and love.
Dogs give unconditional love, connection. They don't require anything from the student. Just being able to have a positive relationship with the dog is a really great thing, and it can be the foundation for growing into having positive relationships and trusting people.
The Yukon government supports the idea, but does not allocate any funding to it. The Department of Education says other schools in Yukon would be free to do the same. All they need is a risk management plan, a staff member with the right training, and the right dog.
It's unconditional acceptance. And Luna, she doesn't care about whether somebody's had something happen to them or maybe they've, had an argument with somebody. She's just as happy to see them every day.
Philippe Morin, CBC News, Whitehorse.
It's a good-looking dog for sure. All right, just a quick reminder, you can always watch our newscasts online anytime at cbc.ca/BC. Our next local news is right here with Dan Burritt at 11 after the National. Up next on CBC Television, Radio, GEM, and online, Our Shot, a CBC Town Hall on vaccinating British Columbia. We'll leave you tonight with these images from North Vancouver, where today members of the Tsleil-Waututh Nation were vaccinated. I'm Mike Killeen, CBC News Vancouver. Thanks a lot for watching.